Hello friends, welcome to the course Foundations of R Software, and now from this lecture we are going to begin with a new topic. You know that whenever you are trying to handle different types of data sets in the R software, usually the data is prepared by someone else under different types of software. Somebody is trying to prepare the data set in say Microsoft Excel, somebody is trying to combine the data in some tabular format .txt file, somebody is trying to bring the data from some other type of softwares like as SPSS, MATLAB, etc. So now the question is that when you want to handle such a data in the R software, you cannot handle it directly, right? Because if the data file is created under the software, say this Microsoft Excel, then internally that has something which the R may not be able to read it. So we need to read the data file and we need to import the data set in the R software. And after that, whatever are the rules of the data handling we have learned, or we have learned how to handle different types of say this operation through the different commands, they have to be implemented under the R software. So now in this lecture and in the next lecture, I will try to consider a couple of some popular formats of the file which we would like to read them in the R software. Once you can read them, after that there is no issue. You have learned many data handling commands and you can do the suitable operation. So in this lecture today, I am going to talk about two types of file, right? One is CSV file, that is comma separated value file, and say other is tabular data file. Do you know what is this CSV file and tabular data file? CSV files are those files in which the data is written and it is separated by comma. Okay, and the data is written on different rows or say different lines, and similarly in the tabular data file, the data is separated by either by blank space or by something else, right? And then every line or say every row contains one complete set of data. That is like suppose if I try to say take a very simple example of students and their marks. Suppose I have got 3 subjects, physics, chemistry and mathematics, and I have suppose 5 students. I want to write down their marks. So you will see that in the first row I will try to write down the names of the student number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and after that their marks in physics, chemistry, maths for student number 1, for student number 2, once again marks in the physics, chemistry, maths and so on. So every row is going to contain the same number of fields. For example, in this case there are 3 fields, physics, chemistry and maths. So every student will have the marks in those 3 fields. So this is your tabular data file. So now in this lecture we will try to understand how we can bring the data under the .csv format and .txt format in the R software. So we try to begin the lecture and we try to take some examples so that I can explain you how these operations can be done. Okay, so now first of all what I have done, that I have prepared some very simple examples and I have kept all those files in my directory which is located on the C colon in a folder whose name is R course. So my first job is that wherever are my files located which I want to import inside the R software, that directory has to be set as the current working directory. And we already have discussed that if you want to set the working directory, the command here is set wd, and then you have to give the location of the data set along with the path. So if you try to see here, I have written here within double quotes C colon / R course, or you can also write like this. And if you really want to know that what is your current working directory, we already have learned that we have a command here get wd, that is get working directory. So by which you will come to know. Now my request is that you also try to create a working directory anywhere, wherever you want. I have created it on the C drive. Similarly, you can create it on any drive, right? So that you can also create this type of file and you can keep all the files and their results in the same folder. So I will be using this folder in this course, right? So now our job is that suppose we have got some data on our computer and we want to import it in the R software. So as we have discussed that there are different formats of the file that in which the data can be saved, and those formats can be used in the R software. For example, comma separated value, which are popularly known as CSV data files, then tabular data file like table files or say .txt, or a spreadsheet like as for example the files which are created in the MS Excel software and their extension is like .xlx or .xls and so on. Similarly, you have HTML files, the data is given in the HTML format, and then there can be some other files which are imported from other softwares like as SPSS, Minitab, etc. These are some statistical software. So we try to handle the data under these software. So they also have a storage facility and you can read the data over there and store the data over there, but in their own format, right? Now, before going forward, means I just want to show you that when you are trying to read the data, it is not a condition that data has to be only on your hard disk or your computer. The data can also be read from any internet site, right? For example, what I have done, I have uploaded file on my home page. The address of my home page is home.itk.ac.in /tilde and after that I have created directory here. There also R course, and under which I have file Munich data.asc. So actually this data is consisting some data from the Munich city in Germany about their house rent. But anyway, my objective is that I just want to show you if somebody has uploaded the data on the website, how you can read it inside the R software directly, and after that you can bring that file inside your R software, and after that you can make such manipulations. So how to get it done? Well, I have not just explained you that how you can read such a data file, but I can tell you here, and I will then explain you in this lecture, that in order to read this tabular data we have a command here, read.table, and after that you have to give here the file name along with the address. So this file name is here, this address, and then after that I am trying to give here one option, header is equal to true. Well, what is the meaning of this read.table header etc., that we are going to discuss very soon, right? But if you try to see here, this command can be used here, and then this data file can be read directly in the R software, right? So first what I will do here, that I will try to show you this location on the R internet site. So I try to, you can see here, I try to write this data, and you can see here, this is here the data, right? That's a long file, but I can show you here that is I can increase the font size here like this, and if you want to see the entire file, it is here like this, right? Anyway, so you can also see this data over there. Anyway, my objective was not to handle the data, but to show you that this data is here on this, on my home page, right? And now what I try to do here, that I try to bring this data file in my R software, and I try to give it here a name, data Munich, and then I come to this R software, and if you try copy and paste this command here, you can see here this data here is like data Munich, like this one, right? And you can see here this data is here, right? Anyway, I'm not bothered about this data, but my thing is this, okay, I just wanted to show you that this data is on the internet site, but I can bring it here directly on my R console, and now this data is here just like here data Munich, and then I can handle this data. For example, if you want to do anything over this data, you can just do it, right? So this is here the data you can see. Anyway, so I clear the screen, and so I have told you that in R software it is possible to read the data from your local directory, from your computer, as well as from some internet site, right? So now this has a very big advantage, that if there are more than one people who are staying at different locations, and the data can be then shared among them, and they can access this data remotely from their own places, right? Okay, so after this I try to take here one example, right? Okay, before going further, let me try to show you here that you see this is my here this folder R course. So you see here this name R course, and then I have here two files, one is example 1 and example 3. I will try to use them in the lecture today, and if you try to see, this is my here example 1, and if you try to open it, this comes here like this. So what I have done here, that there are only here these 5 rows and 3 columns, in which just for the sake of easy understanding, I have taken 5 values here, 1 2 3 4 5 in the first column, 10 20 30 40 50 in the second column, 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 in the third column. So the number of digits are indicating the location of the column also. First column has only one digit, second column has two digits, and third column has three digits. And similarly the rows are here 1, 10, 100, then 2, 10, 100, 3, 30, 300, 4, 40, 400, and 5, 50, 500. So these numbers are also indicating the row numbers, like as if I say 2, so that means this is the second row and first column. So that is just for the sake of easy understanding, so that you can compare what you are trying to do and what are you getting here. So I want to read this file, and this file is actually comma separated value file. That means the file has been created in such a way such that the values are separated by comma. So now my question is how you can read the CSV files, how you can read the comma separated values files. That's all. So for that we have a command here, read.csv, and then within the parenthesis we have to give the name of the file as filename.csv, and after that there are a couple of these options which are used depending on the nature of the file, right? So what I have done, because this file is located in my directory, so I already have set my working directory, and to this thing, so I will cut it on my R console also, and after that I will try to read this file using the command read.csv, and within the parenthesis I try to give here the name example1.csv, and I try to store it inside a variable name data. Now one question comes here, when there is a file name here already, when there is already a file name like example1.csv, then why are you trying to give it here say a new file name here as a data? You see, one thing you have to understand, this example1.csv is the file which is a comma separated value file, and that has some internal structure, and that can be opened in the suitable software. But I want to bring the data values and other related information inside the R software. So when I am trying to import these values, the structure or the internal structure of the file is going to change, and now this file is capable to be read by the R software. So the structure of the file which is capable to be read inside the R software, that is given by data, right? So now once I read this file, then after this I will not be bothered about the file example1.csv, but I will be working only with the variable name here data, right? So if you try to see here, just for the sake of your review, the example1.csv file which I just shown you, it looks here like this, right? So I have just explained you how it looks like. So you can see here that the column names here given by are here ABC, and row names are given by here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, now what we try to do here, that we try to read this file in the R software. So first I try to show you actually through this screenshot what is going to happen, and then I will try to explain you inside the R software. So once you try to read this file and you name it under the data, it looks like this, and this is here the screenshot, and this is here the example1.csv file. Now can you compare it? What's really happening? Can you see some changes in the structure? Okay, if you try to see here, what is this here? X1, X10, X100. And you can see here in the screenshot also it is here. And there was no X1, X10, X100 here. No X1, X10, X100 here. What is happening here? Number 2, if you try to see here the means another difference. In this original file, your data values are starting from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But in this file, the values are starting from here 2, 3, 4 and 5. So the first question comes here, how this X1, X10, X100 entered automatically and you have not given any such command, right? And number 2, why this data is beginning from here 2 instead of here 1? Now, before I move forward, let me try to have your attention here. Can you see here what is here 1, what is here 10 and what is here this 100? Don't you think that something is happening, that when this structure is imported in the R software, then in the first row this X1, X10, X100 is entered, and this happened automatically. So now we try to understand why this is happening, and you have not done it, but still this is happening, right? If you try to see here more clearly here, that original data had like this column names ABC, and data is starting from 1 to 100, so like a 1, 10, 100 in the columns, and but when you are trying to read it inside the R software, it is becoming like this. So let us first try to understand this thing and try to see whether this is happening in the R software or not. So first I need to set my working directory, right? So I set here. So now you can see here my working directory here is like this, C:\r course. But yeah, that's not a very big deal for you also to do such a thing. And then I try to read here this example 1 and I try to store it under the data. Right. And now if you try to see what is happening here with the data is giving you here x1, x10, x100. So the question is, what is this happening? And then the data values are starting from 220, 200 rather than 110, 100. Right. So now let us try to find out the answers one by one. You know that when you are trying to handle the data files, there is something like called as header. Means header is something like I try to write down the data values here and I try to write down here the subjects, say physics, math and say chemistry, and here I try to write down the values there 50, 60, 90, 70, 80, 20. So now when you are trying to give the data values, these two rows, they are your data values. This is only a header. Header means this is only the name, this is not the data, but it is a header which has to be read only as a name, and this does not contain the data. So what is happening in this example here, that whatever is your here first row 110, 100, the R software is trying to read the first row as header and it is doing it automatically, and then it is trying to give these headers a name like as x1, x10 and x100. So essentially what it is trying to do, it is trying to affix the alphabet here x, x10 and x100 like this. So now it is something like this. Now physics becomes here something like x1, math become x10 and chemistry becomes here x100 like this. So you have not given it, but on the other hand you also have not informed the R software that there is no header. So that is why the default here is that R is trying to assume that the data file has got a header, and that is why the first row is being considered as header. Now in case if header is not there, then we need to have one option which can inform the R software that in this file there is no header, and similarly this will give you a control also that if you are trying to read a file and if there is no header, you should inform the R software that there is no header, and if there is a header, then you must inform the R software that there is no header. Right. So the absence and presence of header in the file has to be notified to the R software, and for that what we try to do here, we try to add here one option, header, HEADER, which is all in lowercase alphabets, and this is a logical value. So it will try to take the options in logical true and logical false, and so as soon as you try to say here header is equal to false, that means there is no header, and so the data in the R software will be read from the first row, and if you say here header is equal to true, that means the header is there, and so the data will not be read from the first row. So now you can see here, now gradually we can increase here many options which are required, but I will try to make this explanation simple. So I will be considering here only couple of important options in the whole lecture. So now this new command becomes here read.csv, and inside the double quotes you have to give the file name, and then after that you have to specify whether header is present or absent by saying this logical false or true. So now in this case, if you try to see what the data which you have taken here, do you think that you have specified the header? Answer is no. So that is why I would like to add here that header is equal to false. So my command becomes here read.csv, and then within the double quotes I try to give here this double quote and the file name. So the file name is the same example1.csv, but now I have added here header is equal to false. So now you can see here this type of outcome. Now if you try to see here, whatever was your data, that is now intact, and our software has inserted a row here. What is this row? V1, V2, V3. Actually R has inserted the header and it has given the names of the columns automatically as V1, V2 and V3. So V1, V2, V3, they are the columns or the name of the column, right? So which has been given by the R software automatically. So now when R is trying to give these names automatically, then there is a possibility that you may like to give a name which makes sense or which is needed according to your data. right. Now you can see here now in this screenshot, this was your here data, and now this is your here this data which is matching. Now the data is read correctly, but now there is a header also. So now in case if you want to change the names of your columns, so you already have learned this command which is here name, N-A-M-E-S, and inside the parenthesis you try to give the name of this data which is DATA, and then you try to give the names of the columns that you want to give. Suppose I want to give column 1, column 2 and column 3. So I try to create a data vector of these 3 values, and all these names are going to be written inside the double quotes because they are the characters. And if you try to now use this command here names and inside the parenthesis data, then the names of these columns are going to be changed. And earlier you had the names here like as V1, V2, V3. Now they will become here column 1, column 2, column 3, and you can see here this is your first column consisting of the values 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, second column consisting of the values 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and the third column consisting of the values 100, 200, 300, 400 and 500, and similar are your rows. So exactly the same data has been obtained here, and you can see here this is the screenshot of the same operation, that here are the names V1, V2, V3, but now the change names are column 1, column 2, column 3. So now let me try to show you this operation on the R console also. Right. So now you can see here this was your here data with example 1 without any option. So if you try to give it now your header is equal to here false, that means there is no header, then you can see here the data here is like this, right. Suppose if you try to give here header is equal to here true, then now you can see what is really happening. This is the default, and that was happening when you were trying to not use this option header, then it was automatically taking header is equal to here true, right. So that is why there was a name like x1, x10, x100, and your data values were starting from x2, 20, 200. But anyway, let me try to have here this here false, so that the data here is like this with the name V1, V2, V3, and now I would like to change the name. So I try to use here the option here, say names of the data vector here like this, and once I try to operate it here, you can see now data becomes here this column 1, column 2, column 3. So this is how you can read these variables here. And now if you try to see here, if you try to write down here like this, what do you get here? Data dollar column 1 is your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Data dollar column 2 is your head 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and data column 3 is your here 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. So that means what are you getting? You already have learned that if you want to read a particular column of a data set, then the rule here is name of that variable data, then dollar, and then the name of the variable. So now you can see here the name of your variables in the data are column 1, column 2, column 3. So now you can even access the individual values, and after that now you can do whatever operations you want. For example, if you want to find out here the mean of the values in the column number 3, you can simply write down here like this. So if you try to see what you have done, the data was in some CSV format, the data was on an external drive that was outside the R software. Now you have brought that data object into the R software. Now this file can be read under the R software. All the values are being accessed by the R software, and after that you can do all sorts of data manipulation by using the command that you have learned, and you can handle it very easily. So that was my objective to show you here in this lecture. Now in the first case I have given you all the things in quite detail. Now after this you will see the similar type of operations will be there when I try to consider different types of files, right. So now in this comma separated value file, there is one option here. The option here is that instead of using the comma, you can also use another separator, and this is controlled by the option here sep, right. For example, you also have heard about the tab delimited files in which the data is separated by the tab. So in that case you have to give here the option here SEP, that is separator is equal to within double quotes \t, right. For example, I have taken here only the CSV file, but if the values in the files are separated by the tab, then you have to use the same command read.csv, and then you have to give here the name of the files inside the double quotes, and yeah, don't forget to write the complete name, right. For example, data file name .csv, and then you have to use here the option here SEP, S-E-P, and then if this is a tab delimited file, you have to give it here \T. And similarly, there are many other options. For example, if you try to see another option is the blank space, that different data values are separated by the blank space. In that case, you simply try to use SEP is equal to blank space, and you try to add here SEP is equal to blank space. Yeah, along with this, if you want to use the option here header is equal to true or false, that also you can use, and gradually you can increase this complexity. Right, okay, so now after this CSV file, let us try to understand how we can read the tabular data file and how we can import the tabular data file inside the R software. Right, these tabular data files are simply the text files. Right, for example, they can be created in the notepad, they can be opened in the notepad, and they have a very simple format. Each line contains one record, and within each record the field separated by a one character delimiter such as space, tab, colon or comma. That's all. For example, if I have to write down the marks of my student, I can write down here, say here like suppose I will write down here 50, 60, 70, then 30, then 10 and 20, then 15, then 25, 35. So I know that, for example, this won't be there, but I will write down here physics, this is chemistry, this is here maths, and then here student 1, student 2, student 3, like this. So every here row that is trying to indicate a value, and every value has got the same fields. So each record contains the same number of fields. For example, every student has got the values in 3 different fields, that is physics, chemistry and math. And now we want to read such a text file that contains a table of data. For that, the command here is read.table, read.table, and after that, whatever you have learned in the case of read.csv, everything will be valid here. So you will simply write down here read.table, and within double quotes inside the parenthesis you have to write down the file name. Right, so for example, I can show you here that I have created here a small file to show you in the same folder here whose name is example3. Yeah, you can ask that why I have not taken it example2. Actually, example2 is something else. I will try to show you, but somehow at the time of presentation I thought that okay, this is a better option to first give you about this thing. So this is your here example3, and if you open it, this will be here this file. So it is open in the notepad, and you can see here these are the values. So if you try to see, just to make your illustration and explanation simple, once again I have taken the same values. In the first column 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, second column 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and in the third column 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. Just like what I did in the case of this example 1. That is just to make the life simple and easy to understand. And if you try to see here, the values here are separated only by a blank space, single blank space. Right, that can be comma also, that can be some other character also. Right, so if you try to now see here I have given you now the screenshot also, so that you can understand it very easily. So this is the same thing which I just shown you. Right, so now, and this is your here data, and this is separated by here this blank spaces. Now I try to read this data from this example3.txt. So this is your here read.table. I will use the command, and then I will try to use here within double quotes example3.txt. So you have to give the complete name, and after that, because these values are separated by a blank space, so I am trying to write down here SEP is equal to within double quotes a blank space, and once you try to read it here, it will give here this type of outcome. Now you will understand what is really happening. What is this here V1, V2, V3? This is not here if you try to see. Right, so what it is trying to do, it is trying to automatically create a header whose names are V1, V2, V3 given to the 3 columns, column 1, column 2 and column 3 respectively. And you can see here, this is here the screenshot, and after that change the column names here, that also you can do. So let me try to show you these operations in the R software also, and so you can see here. Now the data here is like this, right? And if you want to change here the names here, that also you can do. So now if you try to see here, this will become here like this, column 1, column 2, column 2, exactly the same way as you have done in the case of this earlier .csv file. And similarly, if you now try to write down here, say data, say dollar here, say column 1. So you can see here this will give you here this value, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then similarly, if you try to take here column 2, this will give you here the values in the second column, and similarly if you try to take here the data dollar column 3, this is here the values in the third file. And then similarly, if you try to suppose want to find out the mean of the values in the column 2, you can simply find out here mean and then the name of the variable data dollar column 2, and this comes out to be here 30. So you can see here the way you are going to handle this file. This is going to have a similar structure, and the commands are also the same, and most of the commands you already have done in the earlier lectures, and the rule is the same. So now it is up to you that how do you want to use it. Right. So now we come to an end to this lecture, and you can see here that was a pretty interesting lecture, at least to me, that you have learned that how to read two different structures of file and how to call them inside the R software. And the best part is that now you have learned many things, and once I tell you that how you can read the file, after that you can handle all the commands very easily. Right. So as you can see that as we are moving further towards the end of this course, your responsibility is increasing day by day. And now it is up to you how much you want to think, how much you want to execute, and how much you want to experiment with the R software. So now this is your turn. Now you know how to read a CSV file, how to read a TXT file. Why don't you take up some file and try to read it, and then don't stop there, but try to do some operation which you are doing on the CSV or the TXT file which you were doing before learning the R software. So be saved as .txt file or .csv file. So you can get the CSV or TXT file directly from your Excel file also. Well, in the next lecture I will try to show you how you are going to read the Excel file also. After that there is no problem, you can read any file, you can handle any data set in the R software. So you try to practice it, and I will see you in the next lecture. Till then, goodbye.